Hello everyone, today is Collage Club Friday and I was getting ready to work in the sketchbook and was starting to collect my collage fodder, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take you on a tour and I'm gonna show you what I'm looking for when I'm collecting my fodder for a glue book session, for some glue therapy. So I've got a little basket out here to collect stuff that I'm going to use. And of course, the first thing I go to all the time is text and patterns. I like the envelopes that you get in junk journals or in your junk mail. Well, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. So I wasn't expecting to see that. And so I like patterns, and I like the neutral bits of text. It goes with everything. It's kind of like jeans for collage. It goes with everything. You can dress it up, you can dress them down, you can use anything with text. So I like to use a lot of this. I use newspaper, I use book text. This is a dictionary. Things that come out of books that are handwritten. Written letters are really good. This one is a printed out letter, 1921. My great-great-grandfather wrote it in Norwegian, and I scanned all these letters that he did, and then I just print them out on regular copy paper so that I have a copy, and I can make the size larger, smaller, and I can put it on coffee dyed paper to make it look aged. So it's really, I like it. It's different. And so I like foreign text, but I like a variety. I don't like all white. I like some aged stuff, different colors. So I always put that kind of stuff. I always have some to grab when I need something neutral. And I like the patterns from envelopes. Again, very neutral. They go with everything. I use them a lot. So I'm collecting stuff in this basket today. I don't want a whole lot of stuff, so I'm limiting myself. I usually get way too much anyway. So that's what that is. That's where I'm putting everything. So that's my basic stuff. This is my basic. I do collect a little bit of this kind of stuff every single time, so I have it handy and ready to go. Before I go on further, make sure if you are a subscriber to go ahead and subscribe again. Click the bell, subscribe, so that you get those notifications that I have put up a video. I've noticed often that YouTube unsubscribes people, and they do it a lot. So check just to make sure if you're not getting your notifications, redo it and try it again. All right, so moving on, I have some little bits of stuff. And again, I've got some newspaper, and this is junk mail. I don't know what company that was, but I love that. It was an envelope. What a great color with the polka dots and stuff. So I grabbed some of that. Scrapbook paper. There's a bunch of different scrapbook papers in here. This is handmade paper. I want some more scrapbook paper. I want some different size stuff. Scrapbook paper. And I'm looking for different colors. Here's some text. Here's some large text. And I don't like that little bit of white, so I'm going to tear it off. Give me 1 second. And where I was, some larger text. I get this out of magazines. Oh, there's a T on the other side. Either side would be cool. And I'm going to go through magazine garbage here in a little bit. So these are some little bits that are left over from me cutting out other things, or left over from, this is garbage. They're Hershey's wrappers. This one is just a wrapper, and I like the foil. I like the gold. I probably should have thrown it away, but I didn't because I like it. And this one, I don't know if you can see it. I don't have any white. I have a star punch, and so I just punched a bunch of stars into it to make it interesting. And I don't want them, I want them still to be wrinkled. I don't want them to be completely flat. All that wrinkly stuff makes it more interesting. Some envelope. This one is a piece from a yearbook, and I cut something else out from the other side, and when I turned it over, I got this piece, and I chopped off all their heads. And it was one of those, it's pretty interesting. I couldn't throw it away. And that's what all this is all about. This is about using the garbage, the weird stuff, the stuff that you just can't throw away. It's interesting stuff. And this is the great stuff. These are the treasures in collage. I was doing some inchies. I punched out a square out of this piece of newspaper, and look how cool that is. Couldn't throw it away. And that's what all this book is all about. Here's a ticket, piece of a book cover, is about using, here's a piece of newspaper with some pattern on it, using the garbage. This is a piece of magazine, and I'm going to get into the magazine stuff real soon. Here's a piece, a strip that I think I kept, and it got mangled in my basket. I like to throw things, leftovers, in a basket. But it ended up, this is a pretty cool piece. It would be really neat, just as it is, randomly folded like that. And I think I want to use it just as it is. It's interesting to see what happens in a basket. Things get wrinkled, things get folded, get creased. Piece of scrapbook paper, piece of painted paper, just some garbage. And here's some little tiny bits. I've gone through some of these before. The little itsy bitsy pieces of, well, that's a painted papers, little leftover things. I look at everything. Here's some text. Here's a piece of a letter. I look at stuff before I throw it away. I cut something out. I want to use something. And then I always look at what's left over. And so often what's left over is really interesting. And so I have a little basket that I keep all this little tiny leftover stuff. Here's a piece of newspaper. I wanted to see how yellow that was. It was really yellow. And I wasn't real pleased with the color and didn't really want to mix something into it, and I just didn't want to spend the time. So I had this piece of tester paper, Couldn't throw that away. It'll be good someplace else. And all the little bits that are left over. This is a book page. It's not a whole image. It's just a part of an image, but it's interesting. It might go into something. So painted papers and little bits of stuff in that basket. Before I get to the magazine thing, because I've got a lot to say about leftover magazine bits, let me pull out my painted paper. I have a basket that I throw scraps of paper, and I use this paper to wipe off brushes sometimes. I also use my under paper or my drop paper here. I throw in bits of painted paper that are left over from pages from books that I've made. See, that's cool. It's just a little strip, just a little bit of color, but it will work. Here's some book text. Sometimes I paint book pages, leftover bits. Here's a dyed receipt paper, which is kind of cool. Let me just throw it in. If I stop to look at something, that one I need to add some color to. I need a different basket for stuff that needs things. Here's some. I was trying to waste some paint, and I don't like to wash it down the drain, so I wash off brushes on pieces of paper. It's not very interesting. It's just a little bit of color on some music paper, but it might be really, really cool in something. So I like to pull out bits of painted paper. I don't necessarily like them to be too wild and crazy. When I'm doing collage, I kind of like simple stuff. But every once in a while, I want something with some pattern. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. So I just want a few pieces. And I want different sizes, and I rip things because I want things to be, I don't want everything to be square. Which one do I want? I'm going to go with the pattern one. That's just purple. Some spirograph, some tissue paper that got splattered just lightly, just enough to give it some interest. Oh, there's a little bit of stamping. You just throw a piece of that in. I forget about tissue paper because that's really fun. This stuff looks like it needs to be colored. Do I have enough painted paper? I usually want a bit. So let me pick out some more. This is wild and crazy. Too much purple. Put some green in there, some pink in there. Here's just a piece of gold. We can use some of that. Should we use some spirograph? I like this one. The ink kind of ran. So that's an interesting piece now. I'd like to rip stuff so everything's not square or rectangle. I want some interesting shapes. I want some different sizes. This is really mangled. but it's kind of cool. Put that in there. I already have some music. Here's some blue. Let me just use that whole strip in. That's spirograph already. And that's kind of cool too. Let me put that whole thing in, and I'll rip it as I want it. So another staple, some painted paper. This one's kind of interesting. We'll just throw it in. Maybe I'll use it, maybe I won't. So I've been doing a project using figures and putting heads on them. It's the unusual yearbook photos. And so I have a bunch of pieces of paper. I don't know, I guess I can put it this way. This box is too big. Let me pull out just a few at first here. This is garbage. This is what was left over after cutting out torsos and heads. So I always look on the other side for interesting bits. Loved the chairs. Loved them. Don't necessarily want all. And it's too big for what I'm doing. Actually, that would be cool. Oh, I got a little bit of words here. So now it's an interesting shape. It's a dark piece. I could actually use the legs too, but it's different, and that's what I am looking for. So I always turn over my stuff and find interesting bits for collage. Don't necessarily want to use that. Text. It's interesting. And of course I will save that for another time. But this one, I'll see both sides are cool. Some kind of knit sweater. Look at the pattern in that. It's really a cool pattern. And then this side is cool too, with a door and a column. I mean, this is going to be one of those hard decisions to make, which side to use. No idea what that is. But the color's so interesting. So here's another one. I used her torso. Look at the color on that. Look how cool that is. So let me rip off her head. I could probably use that head in something. And I just love this color. And this is kind of cool too. As an abstract bit. See? And this is how I get my interesting bits of fodder. Things get wrinkled, which makes it more interesting. Things get folded and bent. I mean, it's odd, but it's usable. Oh, and here's another one. I just love that. I don't necessarily like that beige there, but I like, there's something about it. It's different. It's unique. It's not something that I planned. And I will probably never find anything like this piece again. I'm going to put it in there. So I love this color. Which piece? I don't want to use both of them. They're both really cool. It's an odd green. I'm going to put that one in and use that one later. So here's another one where I cut out her figure, but what's left is all this greenery. And here's a little bit that's cool. Got a little bit of her hand and stuff here, so I'm just trying to make it so it's not so weird. And I'd have to cut off the white border. On the other side there's nothing, so I am going to rip off. And look at the color there. Before I throw this little bit away. Oh, it's a face. I didn't even see that until I ripped everything else away. That's cool. We're going to put that in there. And these little lines here, it's a tiny little piece. It's a tiny little detail that will be really cool somewhere. So let me cut off that white. I could rip it off as well. Then I've got this cool, probably a background piece to put other things on top of. I love the backgrounds of magazine pages. Here's another one. I don't know. Oh, I must have cut out her. But look at this. That's kind of cool. I'm going to save that. And then I don't know what it is about that, but I like it. Save it for another time. I like this black with the streak through it, and I like this too. Both sides are cool. Here's another figure that I cut out. But look at these. This is too big for the project that I'm working on now, but look at the background here. These drawers and shelves of all this stuff. How cool is that? I'm doing a project using these cutouts. So I'm going to save this for that project because that's pretty cool. And I'll get into that project later. Make sure that I remember that one. And here's another one where the figure is cut out. Half of him, half of her. And it would be an interesting little bit. And I'm going to leave it just as it is. And maybe I'll use it. You know, here's another interesting bit. Here's some text. Oh, here's the other part of that green. And I would probably use that again in another project, but I don't want too much of the same thing in my project today. So here's a piece of just some peach color magazine. And I went to throw it away, so it's all wrinkled, because I you know, to save space, I crunch stuff. And so it's a neutral little bit. I like it. I'm going to keep it. And here's, I'm not sure, I cut the figure away here, and she was standing in front of the statue. And I love that. Don't necessarily like that bit of purse there. And I don't necessarily like, well, here's something I ripped out here. Another page. Oh, see, and look, there's a little bit of this turquoise color. Okay, there's 2 pages here. Nope, it's just, no. It's got to be 2 pages. Nope, it's just a thick page. Nope. Oh, it's kind of, I don't know what it is. So let me rip that part off. And rip that white bit off. And so, oh, it's part of that, those chairs. And then this, I don't know, it's an abstract color. It's got some lines. It's very interesting. I would probably use that in something. So back to this statue. I think what I'd want to do is cut off the white bit. I don't find that very interesting. And my project is about that long. So we'll see if I use it. And I can't throw that little bit away either. So it's all about the garbage, the things that you're getting ready to throw away. Take a look at them. I loved these. I love that pattern. And this piece, see, I like the words here, the text on a very neutral color, and this peach. I love the color peach. Here's some windows, and a little bit of hair. But it's a cool little bit. I really do pay attention to stuff that I throw away. So this red is wonderful. Hand sticking out. Some text. I just love the pattern of the floor and her leg and this out of focus leg. It's an interesting piece. It's too big for what I'm working on now, but it's an interesting piece. Here's a wrinkled bit with an interesting color. Here's a dark bit. I kind of run out of dark when I'm doing some collage. And so that's a dark piece with a little bit of interest in it. Just a piece of color. Here's the top of a bird's head. Couldn't throw it away. I might be able to put that on something else and make it very interesting. Like the bird is peeking out from something. I never know what I would use that for. The project that I'm working on now is more abstract. I don't really want images. I want color and pattern, textures, and so that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for images. And I think a lot of people see an image in a magazine or something. They cut out the magazine image that they've spotted, and then they throw away the rest of it. It might be an interesting color. It might be, I don't even know what that is, but that's cool. I'm going to use that. Here's some lines. It's cool. Piece of a doorway or something. Don't necessarily like that red color. So that leaves me a really odd shaped small piece. I used her body, but look at the lines in back of her. I may not want this detached head, but when I spot it again, I'll look at it. Here's a piece of yearbook page. I just loved all that. So look at what you're getting rid of. It might be an interesting color, a texture, some kind of pattern. And I will use all of these a little bit. Oh, purple is a hard one to find. I love that. So I'm going to put that in. Here is, it's a ham. Let me just put this down for a second. I don't necessarily want to use food, but look at the lines in that. So let me just randomly that's a little weird. I'll keep that. But you can't tell that it's ham or whatever it is. It just looks like lines. It's a wonderful texture. So I will use that. Here's another one. I cut out her shoulders there. And then that's a great face. Even though it's not her whole face, I can definitely use it. Let me cut. Oops. I'm going to save that for another time. But now we've got an interesting bit of face to add somewhere. It doesn't have to be a whole image to be interesting. And that's what all of this is. It's the stuff that got cut away. And you know, that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to put that in there. Take a look. You never know what you're going to find. I love that. Just the lines. No idea after, I know what it is because I've seen it, but when I come across it again, I will have no idea what that was. But what an interesting piece. It'll be really cool in something. And so that's how I collect my bits. I have boxes and boxes of stuff. And I keep more than I throw away. I really do. I have got a ton of stuff. So here's some little bits. Because a lot of times when you're cutting out images, there's not a whole lot left on the page. But how cool is that? Here's just a little window. It would be fun to use in something. Here's another window. I don't necessarily like that blue and the white. So I'm ripping that off. That's an interesting bit. Bits of color. And these are small little bits. I like different sized things. Pattern. I have no idea what it was, but how cool is that? So take a look at the little sections of the page you're getting ready to throw away, as you never know what you're going to see. I love text. Love it. Here's another one. I don't know what I cut out something and then turned it around. And that is so cool. Don't necessarily like the white, but you know what? I might want the white when I'm working with it, but I'm going to put it in my basket. Maybe I will use it. I love the little bits. Here's a head that I cut out. And then I turned it over. All the things I could do with that. So let's put that in. Little tiny people. Coffee. This was a part of a face that was left over, and I just kind of ripped it out. But look at the color on the back. Not sure what side I'm going to use. And so here's some feathers that didn't get used. You really can't tell that they're feathers. I remember this one. How interesting is that? So I keep my little tiny bits in a separate, that's just a piece of painted paper, in a separate container because they get lost in the big stuff. Huh. How fun. Here's her eyes. Might use that in something. A piece of newspaper. I'm just going to stick that in there. A piece of packing tape. It's pretty cool. Little tiny bits. And then you get into the itsy bitsy little bits. And I need a whole new basket for that. I like the little tray. Sometimes the baskets, they escape through the the slits of the baskets. Some of the tiny little bits do. And so, oh, look at this one. Look at those little lines. How much fun is that? I don't like that little white there. Didn't get it all. Don't know what that was. It's in a very interesting shape now. And so I am just going to use all these fun, interesting little bits. It's just a hand. It's on like some kind of cardstock or something. It's really thick. And so that's what I'm doing when I'm collecting stuff. I'm looking for different colors. I'm looking for different textures, different sizes, different size pieces. I'm looking for all this different stuff. I'm not necessarily looking for things that go together. Can I get it off? Not really. I'm not looking for things that go together. And that is the beauty of this kind of collage, a visual journaling type of collage, is you just let your eyes find things that are interesting at that moment, put them all together, and then see what happens when you start trying to put those bits together. I didn't compare any of those bits. I'm going to put that in because it's interesting. With anything else that I had. So I've got quite a bit of stuff here, probably more than I need for a glue therapy session. And I do get overwhelmed if I've got too much stuff. So this is going to be plenty. And I think I've run out of time for today. So next time I am going to use this stuff for some of my collage pages. So stay tuned. Come back next week and see what I've done with the stuff that I collected just now. So I hope you have a fun Friday and you got something done. You're going to get something done. And I hope I've inspired you to look at your garbage and find some interesting stuff in things that you might have not thought about and thrown away. You probably have a ton of stuff that is really cool that you don't even know you have. So happy hunting, happy collage, happy Friday, and thanks for watching.